The day before our engagement, my fiancé said he wanted to take me on a world tour first. As soon as we landed in northern Myanmar, he conspired with his first love to tie me up and throw me into a car. As the car drove further ahead, I trembled all over at the sight of the familiar surroundings and begged them to stop the car and let me go home. Theo Jong sneered and told me to stop wasting my breath. Once they sold me to the compound, no one would stand in the way of him and his first love. I cried my eyes out because it wasn't me who was doomed, but the two of them. This is my childhood friend's den. I've exhausted every means to escape from him these past few years. Never thought that right after returning home, I'd be sent back here again. Baby, how about I take you on a world tour? Theo Jong gently stroked my long hair, his eyes glimmering with an unfathomable light. First, we'll go to northern Myanmar. It has the most beautiful jade, lost in the joy of soon becoming a bride. I completely missed the odd note in his tone. I agreed to his request, and Theo Jong happily helped me pack my luggage, his eyes brimming with anticipation. It wasn't until the plane landed at the airport in northern Myanmar that I realized his first love, Ren Lin, was also traveling with us. Theo Jong, what's going on here? I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle, watching as Ren Lin linked arms with Theo Jong. Theo Jong's smile vanished instantly, replaced by a chilling indifference. Zarasu, you didn't really think I came here to travel with you, did you? Did you actually believe I would marry you? If it weren't for my family's fortune, I wouldn't even spare you a second glance. Ren Lin forcibly yanked my luggage away. Stop dreaming. Theo only loves me, and as for you. She looked at me with a cruel smile, her words sending chills down my spine. I'll sell you to northern Myanmar and make you disappear forever. Hearing northern Myanmar, my entire body turned cold, and my voice trembled uncontrollably. I beg you to let me go. I'm willing to give you all my family's property. Please, don't send me to northern Myanmar. Seeing me beg for mercy, Theo Jong kicked me to the ground, his grin twisted. Scared already? Didn't you say you loved me? If you love me, then die for me. Only when you're dead can Ren and I rest easy. Alright, Theo, stop wasting time with her. The boss is waiting to inspect the goods. Ren Lin stood before me, the corners of her lips slightly upturned, her eyes gleaming with an unmistakable hint of triumph. She pulled a syringe from her bag, gently stroking the vial with her fingers as if caressing a prized trophy. Just one shot, and you'll obey without question. Ren Lin raised the syringe in her hand, her smile growing increasingly sinister. Be good, it'll be over soon. The needle inched closer. Zarasu's breathing grew rapid and uneven, her chest heaving violently, her fingertips turned icy cold. Yet her palms were slick with sweat. No, please don't. Zarasu's voice trembled as her eyes remained fixed on the syringe in Ren Lin's hand. Beg me, don't. Zarasu's voice trembled, carrying a desperate plea. Her body also began to shake uncontrollably, losing all strength in an instant as she collapsed to the ground. Ren Lin's every step felt like it was crushing Zarasu's heart, her throat seemingly gripped by an invisible hand, making even breathing difficult. No, no, please, please. Don't. Zarasu kept begging, the terror in her eyes nearly overflowing. She kept stepping back, but the needle tip still pressed against Zarasu's skin, the icy sensation sending a shiver through her body. Her breath suddenly halted, her heart seeming to stop beating in that instant. No, no. Zarasu struggled desperately at the last moment, yet Ren Lin's other hand clamped down on her wrist like an iron vice, her sharp nails nearly digging into Zarasu's skin, bringing a sharp sting. The next second, the needle pierced her skin, and the icy liquid slowly flowed into Zarasu's body. She collapsed to the ground in despair, the light in her eyes gradually dimming until it vanished completely. In the last second before losing consciousness, Zarasu saw Ren Lin's triumphant smile. Ren Lin's gaze was filled with disdain and mockery, as if taunting her helpless resistance. When she woke up again, Zarasu found herself tied up in the back seat. The atmosphere inside the car was suffocating, and the cramped space of the back seat instantly became a prison trapping her. The effects of the drug hadn't worn off yet, and Su Wn was still weak all over, completely unable to resist. The ropes felt like countless tiny saw teeth, tightly digging into Zarasu's skin. Her hands were forcibly twisted behind her back. Zara Su kept pleading with them. Please, let me go, you'll regret this. She looked at Theo Jong in the driver's seat. I'll give you anything you want, please just let me go, okay, please, for the sake of our past relationship, let me go, you'll regret this. Theo Jong's face was filled with determination and indifference. His once affectionate eyes now resembled bottomless ice caves. Regret? I think you've lost your mind. Why would we regret anything? Once you're dead, everything in your family will belong to Theo, and then he and I can run away together. Ren Lin turned her head to look at Zara Su. The smug and sinister smile playing at the corners of her lips. As for you, rot and fester in this living hell, reduced to a monstrous abomination neither human nor ghost. Zara Su let out a sigh and curled her body into the backseat, gazing at the increasingly familiar scenes outside the car window. Endless despair surged toward her like relentless tidal waves. One after another, countless agonizing meetings filled Zara Su's mind. The memory of that person like a demon crawling out from the abyss of hell. His hands were stained with the blood of countless people, each drop seemingly narrating his sins. Killing was as natural to him as breathing. The lives of the innocent mere ants in his eyes. After 5 years by his side, his gaze remained piercingly cold, eyes that had witnessed too much death yet remained utterly numb. Every firework in northern Myanmar is paid for with human lives. Beneath the dazzling fireworks lie countless lost lives, shattered families, and endless grief. At such moments, Jiyu Linyuan would hold Zara Su, making her admire his masterpiece together. His voice, like a demon's whisper, explodes in Zara Su's mind. Zara, you must never imitate those reckless little piglets who don't know the meaning of danger. My Zara is so delicate, if she were to get hurt, it would truly break my heart. Be good, Zara, a girl won't look pretty if she gets injured. Zara Su curled up in the back seat, watching the two people in front who intended to sell her, and couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety for them. If Jiyu Linyuan found out they had treated him like this, would they end up like a san thrown to the dogs? Let me go, the boss of the compound is my childhood friend, if you kidnap me, you'll die. Zara Su looked up at the two men, but they clearly didn't believe Zara Su's words. Ren Lin looked Zara Su up and down. Are you out of your mind, using such a lame lie to trick us? She snorted disdainfully and rolled her eyes at Zara Su. The park boss is your childhood sweetheart. I could just as well say he's my distant cousin. She's just an orphan, where would she get a childhood sweetheart? If he really were, why hasn't he come looking for her? Theo Jong said. I think she's just scared and spouting nonsense. Seeing the two of them refusing to listen, Zara Su wisely kept her mouth shut. No amount of good advice can save those doomed to die. After a rough jolt, Zara Su, hooded, was dragged out of the car. The air was thick with a putrid stench, a mix of death and despair. The dampness slithered into Zara Su's pores like countless icy snakes. A faint, lingering smell of something burnt hung in the air, as if some cruel act had just taken place here. Low, mournful wails echoed intermittently from all directions, like resentful laments rising from the depths of hell, reverberating through the eerie space. Theo Jong's voice, humble and ingratiating, came through. Gentlemen, this batch of goods is genuinely top-notch. What do you think about the price? The hood was yanked off, revealing a hideous face before Zara Su. The man spoke in broken Chinese. You look good. Are you a virgin? Yes, 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 boss. Don't worry, the goods we give you, how could they be second-hand? Theo Jong quickly chimed in. All right, take her away. As soon as the man finished speaking, I was forcibly dragged away by two people. Zara Su tried to say something, but her mouth was already gagged, leaving her only able to make muffled sounds. Zara Su was locked in a room filled with the smell of blood. Surrounded by many other girls just like her, they were covered in wounds, huddled in the corners of the room. Zara Su wanted to step forward to ask about the situation but was warned by a burly man who banged on the cage. He spat out a string of vicious words, speaking in a thickly accented dialect, shouting loudly, "Don't even think about any funny business. Once you're here, don't expect to leave alive." Their voices were like coarse sandpaper, grating against my eardrums. After speaking A cruel excitement gleamed in his eyes, his mouth twisted into a sneer, revealing a set of yellowed teeth as he coldly laughed. You think you can still run? Today, I'll show you whose territory this is. Let me go. If you dare lay a hand on me, your boss won't let you off. Zara Sue glared fiercely at the man, trying to intimidate him. But these words not only failed to intimidate the man, they enraged him instead. He flung open the iron door and charged in violently. His eyes sunken like two black holes, he grabbed Zara Sue by the hair and forcibly lifted her face. The man's face twisted with perverse pleasure, his eyes devoid of any trace of pity. His face was covered with coarse, twitching muscles, each one trembling with excitement. As he tightened his grip, he let out a maniacal laugh, a sound like the screech of an owl that sent chills down the spine. Our boss, little girl. You don't actually think there's going to be some cliché hero saves the damsel story here, do you? Once you're here, forget about having an easy time, obey, and you'll suffer less. A tall, skinny man nearby chimed in, disobey, and we'll beat you so badly even your parents won't recognize you. There was not a trace of human warmth in their voices, only endless cruelty and greed. Beside me stood a woman, her eyes gleaming with malice, shrieking, you think you're still some highborn lady? Trying to threaten me with our boss? Here, you're the lowest of the low. With that, the whip came down upon me. Here, every day we get self-righteous little piglets like you. Do you know how we deal with them? The woman lifted Zara Sue's chin with a sinister smile. We beat them until they submit. The whip lashed down on Zara Sue again and again, each strike accompanied by their laughter. All right, don't actually kill her, there's still a long way to go. The obese man stopped the woman. This batch of goods was personally requested by the boss. It wouldn't be good to explain if she really died. Pa, consider yourself lucky. I wasn't done yet. The woman spat on Zara Sue's face and left angrily. Zara Sue was thrown to the ground like a piece of ragged cloth, every pore on her body screaming in pain. The scene before her was stained red with blood. In the last second before closing her eyes, she saw Jiu Linyuan. He frowned and looked at me with displeasure. His lips moving as if he were saying something, though I couldn't make out the words. The next day, Zara Sue was jolted awake by pain as a thug kicked her disdainfully. Hey, stop pretending to be dead, get up now. Zara Sue lay weakly on the ground, her body covered in wounds. Her once fair skin was now covered in dark purple bruises, crisscrossed with streaks of blood, as if a demon had wantonly painted on her with a brush. Her clothes hung in tatters on her body, stained with mud and blood. Her hair was as tangled as dry grass, matted to her cheeks with sweat and blood. The thugs surrounded her, their faces filled with disgust. A pockmarked thug frowned, nudging Zara Sue with his foot, and said with revulsion, look at this state, half dead and half alive. Keeping her around is just a burden. The skinny thug from yesterday chimed in, exactly, it's disgusting to look at. Might as well get rid of her sooner. There wasn't a trace of sympathy in their eyes, only coldness and disgust. The pock-faced henchman crossed his arms, his eyes icy cold, and shouted at the others, find a place to bury her alive, spare us the annoyance of looking at her. Zara Sue's eyes filled with desperate terror upon hearing these words. She tried to struggle to her feet, but the pain from her injuries made every movement feel like her body was being torn apart. Her lips trembled, wanting to beg for mercy, but only a faint whimper escaped. The sound was like the flicker of a dying candle. So feeble in this wicked space, the thugs found a worn-out shovel and began digging a pit in the nearby wasteland. As they dug, they occasionally glanced back at Zara Sue, their eyes looking at her like she was trash about to be discarded. As the pit grew deeper, Zara Sue knew her life was about to come to an end. Her eyes gradually became hollow, staring blankly at the pit that was soon to become her grave. Everything around her seemed to darken, leaving only endless despair. Just as the cold shovel was about to scoop the first mound of earth to bury Sue Wan's battered, barely alive body, the sound of footsteps approached from afar. What are you doing? Jiu Linyuan's voice was deep and icy, like an interrogation from the depths of hell, echoing across the silent clearing. Each word struck like a hammer, pounding heavily on the hearts of the thugs. The thugs exchanged glances. Just moments ago, they had been utterly arrogant. But now, under the oppressive aura of Jiyu Linyuan, they were like chickens with their necks wrung, unable to utter a word for a long while. The pockmarked thug stammered, "Jiyu, Master Jiyu. This woman is disobedient. We just wanted to teach her a lesson." Jiyu Linyuan looked at the scene before him, slightly furrowing his brows, his thin lips parted. His voice as cold as the night in the estate. "Such a trivial matter and you're taking this long. What do I keep you around for? Speed it up." His words echoed through the air like an icy command. The underlings immediately became flustered upon hearing their boss's words. The pockmarked underling hastily dug into the soil a few more times with extra force. Each strike sent up a cloud of dust, as if tolling the death knell for Su Wn. The other underlings didn't dare slack off either. They lifted Su Wan's battered body, dragging her like a worn-out ragdoll, toward the half-dug pit. Su Wan's eyes were filled with despair, tears mingling with the blood on her face as they slowly trickled down. Her lips trembled slightly, but she no longer had the strength to utter a plea for mercy. All she could do was gaze at Jiyu Linyuan with eyes brimming with sorrow and terror. Jiyu Linyuan stood there, coldly ordering the speed of the live burial to be increased. His gaze swept over Su Wan. Yet he failed to recognize the woman he had once cherished in the palm of his hand. Su Wan's face was swollen and distorted from the pain, her once rosy lips now cracked and bleeding. The wounds on her body emitted a bloody stench, and her once beautiful features had been tortured beyond recognition. She could never have imagined that Jiyu Linyuan, who had once indulged her in every way, could truly be so cold and heartless. Like a complete demon, her eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. Her anger and loathing toward Jiyu Linyuan growing ever stronger. She wanted to struggle to her feet and confront him, but the excruciating pain in her body only allowed her to let out weak gasps, sounds that seemed like a final indictment of this cruel world. Jiyu Linyuan seemed to have grown accustomed to such matters. He simply stood there, his expression cold and stern, as if dealing with something trivial. Su Wn felt her life force slowly fading. But the intense resentment in her heart burned like a flame, sustaining her. With the last ounce of strength in her body, she forced a faint yet venomous whisper from her throat, "Jiyu Linyuan, I hate you." The voice, though soft, struck Jiyu Linyuan's ears like a clap of thunder. His body jolted violently, as the familiar voice seemed to pierce through layers of mist, reaching straight into the depths of his heart. He strode swiftly toward Su Wan. Without hesitation brushing aside the soil that was about to bury her, Su Wan was covered in filth, her originally fair skin now smeared with blood and dirt. The wounds on her body were still oozing blood, her disheveled hair clung to her face, and in her eyes, beyond despair, lay a deep-seated hatred. Jiyu Linyuan felt as if his heart had been struck a heavy blow, a sharp pain surging through him. He hurriedly and carefully picked up Su Wan. His movements so gentle as if she were the most fragile treasure in the world. As he swiftly carried Su Wan towards the medical room in the compound, he turned his head and viciously scolded the underlings. "You fools, where are your eyes? How did she end up here? Go and find out immediately who sold her to this place." The underlings trembled in fear at Jiyu Linyuan's imposing aura. They had never seen their boss so furious before. The pockmarked underling stammered, "Why yes, boss. We'll investigate right away." Then, like startled rats, the group scattered in all directions to track down the person who had sold Su Wan to them. Jiyu Linyuan held Su Wan in his arms, his eyes filled with anxiety and heartache, wishing only to get her treated as soon as possible to relieve her suffering. Su Wan lay weakly in Jiyu Linyuan's embrace, like a petal on the verge of withering at any moment. The breath of life was as faint as a candle flickering in the wind. Her eyes were half open and half closed, her consciousness already beginning to blur. Jiyu Linyuan looked at her barely clinging to life, feeling as if countless needles were piercing his heart, the pain unbearable. He rushed into the most advanced medical facility in the compound with Su Wan in his arms, shouting at the medical staff inside, "Get me the best doctor you have here. If she doesn't make it, none of you will be spared." The medical staff didn't dare to delay for even a moment and immediately summoned the most skilled doctor in the compound. The doctor conducted a thorough examination of Su Wan, while Jiyu Linyuan waited anxiously by her side, his eyes never leaving her for a moment. During the days when the doctor treated Su Wan, Jiyu Linyuan set aside all his responsibilities in the industrial park and personally took care of her every day. He carefully wiped Su Wan's body. As gently as if handling a priceless treasure, he spoke softly to Su Wan, though most of the time she remained unconscious, responding only with faint breaths. Every day, he would go to the kitchen to personally prepare nutritious porridge and soup for Su Wan, then patiently feed her spoon by spoon. His eyes were filled with tenderness and pity, as if trying to compensate for all the care that had been missing in the past. As the days passed, under Jiyu Linyuan's meticulous care, Su Wan's health gradually improved. Her originally pale, paper-like complexion began to show a hint of rosiness, and her weak body slowly regained strength. Her eyes no longer held only fear and hatred. A glimmer of vitality began to emerge, or perhaps Zara Su concealed her hatred and rage beneath a facade of gentleness and obedience. Meanwhile, on Jiyu Linyuan's side, his men finally tracked down those who had sold Su Wan to the compound after an extensive search. Jiyu Linyuan's gaze instantly turned icy and fierce, like a venomous snake poised to strike. He ordered Theo Zhong and Ren Lin to be taken to a dark, damp basement in the compound. The basement was filled with all sorts of horrifying torture instruments, reeking of blood and decay. Jiyu Linyuan slowly descended the stairs, each step carrying an aura of death. Looking at the two trembling figures before him, the corners of his lips curled into a cold smile. "I heard you sold a woman named Zara Su a few days ago." Theo Zhong looked at Jiyu Linyuan, fully convinced that Jiyu was very satisfied with this little piglet Su Wan. With a beaming smile, he said, "Boss, you see, I put in a lot of effort for this Su Wan matter." Jiyu Linyuan slightly raised his eyebrows, his eyes exuding a chilling coldness as he fixed his gaze on Theo Zhong and slowly asked, "How did you trick Su Wan into coming here?" Theo Zhong, thinking Jiyu Linyuan was merely curious about the process, let his guard down and blurted out everything without hesitation. He animatedly described how he fabricated lies and deceived Su Wan step by step into walking into the trap. Finally, a lewd smile crept onto his face as he lowered his voice and said, "Boss, you have no idea. This Su Wan is still a virgin. Such high-quality goods are hard to come by. Don't you think you could raise the price a bit for me?" Ren Lin, standing nearby, seeing Theo Zhong's behavior, also assumed that Jiyu Linyuan had come to reward their merits. She quickly swayed her hips and moved closer. With a flattering smile on her face and eyes full of expectation, she said, "Boss, I've helped quite a bit too. You can't just forget about me." As she spoke, she casually brushed her hair back with her hand, trying to catch Jiyu Linyuan's attention. Jiyu Linyuan looked at Ren Lin's eager approach with clear disdain on his face. He reached out and forcefully pushed Ren Lin aside. His eyes like layers of thick ice, radiating endless coldness. His voice was deep and icy as he issued the command, "Take these two to the torture chamber and make them suffer." Ren Lin and Theo Zhong paled in terror upon hearing the order. Their bodies began to tremble uncontrollably. "I heard the interrogation room is one of the most terrifying places in the entire complex. Even an immortal would be skinned alive if they entered." Ren Lin trembled as she asked, "B boss, why? What did we do wrong?" Jiyu Linyuan's lips still curled into a smile as he slowly replied, "Su Wan is my childhood sweetheart. Now, why do you think that is?" Ren Lin and Theo Zhong felt their hearts flood with fear upon hearing the news. Theo Zhong's eyes widened in shock. What Zara Su had said was actually true. He pointed at Ren Lin and shouted, "It was all her idea. She made me do it." Theo Zhong's face was filled with terror as he trembled and crawled toward Jiyu Linyuan. Reaching out to clutch at his pant leg, "It was her who urged me to sell Zara Su. She incited me. I'm innocent, boss," Ren Lin shrieked, pointing at Theo Zhong. "He was the one who deceived her. He tricked Zara Su into thinking he was taking her on a trip. He said that as long as Zara Su dies, he can get his money in the name of Zara Su's fiancé. If it weren't for him, Su Wan wouldn't have come here. Boss, this really has nothing to do with me." In an instant, the once loving couple turned into bitter enemies. However, Jiyu Linyuan paid no heed to their pleas, as his men had already dragged the two to the torture chamber. There, all manner of cruel punishments awaited them. Everything Zara suffered, you shall repay 1,000-fold. With those words, they were hauled into the torture chamber. Theo Jong was pinned to the ground, and the henchman pressed the red-hot branding iron onto his back without hesitation. Theo Jong let out a piercing scream as the skin on his back instantly turned charred and blackened, the flesh curling and peeling. He struggled desperately but was held down firmly, only able to writhe in agony while letting out continuous, tortured cries. Beside him, Ren Lin had turned deathly pale from terror. She trembled and begged the thug for mercy. "Please, let me go. I'll do anything you want. Just let me go," ignoring the woman's pleas. The thug picked up a whip studded with sharp spikes and lashed it mercilessly across Ren Lin's body. The whip whistled through the air before striking her arms, back, and legs with brutal force. Deep blood marks immediately appeared on Ren Lin's skin, with blood seeping from the wounds, staining her clothes red. Her cries were unbearably pitiful, her voice hoarse from screaming, her eyes filled with despair. "Boss, they've passed out," the underling reported with his head lowered. "Throw them into salt water to soak," Jiyu Linyuan said indifferently, as if discussing what to eat today. The underling received the order, dragged Ren Lin and Theo Jong to a large vat filled with salt water, and threw them in. The salt water stung their wounds, like countless needles twisting inside. Ren Lin and Theo Jong were jolted awake by the sudden pain. They thrashed wildly in the vat, begging for mercy, desperate to escape the excruciating agony. But all around them were the hard walls of the vat, leaving them no choice but to endure the excruciating erosion of salt water on their wounds. Yet Jiyu Linyuan showed no intention of stopping, merely issuing a casual order, "Don't let them die too easily." Before departing, after Jiyu Linyuan left, Ren Lin and Theo Jong were subjected to hundreds of tortures. Their agonized screams echoed through the torture chamber, but Jiyu Linyuan remained utterly unmoved. "Boss, the person is dead," the underling reported cautiously to Jiyu Linyuan. Jiyu Linyuan merely gave a slight nod, as if it were just an insignificant matter. At that moment, he was sitting in the garden, with Zara Su nestled by his side, hearing the underling's words. Zara Su was startled and looked at Jiyu Linyuan in confusion. Jiyu Linyuan seemed oblivious to her unusual behavior. He gently held Zara Su in his arms, whispering the most touching words of love into her ear. "Zara, you are the most precious existence in my life. As long as I am here, you won't suffer any harm." His voice was tender and deep, like a murmuring brook. However, a chill ran through Zara Su's heart. She was utterly terrified by Jiyu Linyuan's cruelty. Those two people had been tortured to death, yet Jiyu Linyuan remained so indifferent. She knew she had to do something to stop Jiyu Linyuan from continuing his evil deeds. Zara Su secretly made a decision. She began quietly seeking opportunities to go undercover and tried every possible means to contact the undercover police officer. Zara Su knew she had to reach the undercover agent as soon as possible, but Jiyu Linyuan had people closely monitoring her every move, making it nearly impossible to find an opportunity. Finally, on Zara Su's birthday, Jiyu Linyuan was in an unusually good mood and let his guard down to celebrate with her, taking advantage of the moment when no one was paying attention. Su Wn slipped a sedative into the wine. The knockout drug was something she had secretly found earlier in the medical room of the hideout, colorless and odorless, undetectable when mixed into alcohol. Jiyu Linyuan, completely unsuspecting, picked up the glass and drank it all in one go. Before long, Jiyu Linyuan fell into a deep, heavy slumber. Seeing the moment had come, Zara Su carefully avoided the guards and hurried toward the prearranged meeting point. Following the route she had secretly observed earlier, her heart raced with every step, each movement fraught with the fear of being discovered, but the determination in her heart to wipe out this den of iniquity gave her the courage to press on. She arrived at an abandoned factory building. This was the rendezvous point. Zara Su hid in a corner, nervously awaiting the appearance of the undercover agent. Time ticked by, each second of waiting feeling like an eternity. Suddenly, she heard faint footsteps, and a figure slowly emerged. Zara Su clenched her fists nervously, only relaxing when she saw the agreed-upon signal from the other person. Realizing this was the undercover agent she had been waiting for, following the prearranged route, she slowly made her way toward the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the town. The warehouse stood amidst overgrown weeds, its surroundings eerily quiet except for the creaking of the wind through its broken doors and windows. Zara Sue stopped at the warehouse door, nervously clutching the hem of her clothes, her eyes fixed on a loose stone at her feet. According to the plan, she needed to kick the stone aside as a signal for the rendezvous. She took a deep breath and lightly lifted her foot, sending the stone rolling away with a clatter. Before long, a man dressed in shabby work clothes, wearing a grimy cap, looking like an ordinary laborer, slowly approached the warehouse. His footsteps were steady, but his gaze was sharp. When he walked up to Zara Sue, her heart leaped into her throat. "Are you here to sell flowers?" the man asked in a low voice, his tone hoarse as if he hadn't had water in a long time. Zara Sue swallowed hard and replied, "I have special flowers here that only bloom at night." This was their prearranged code phrase. The man gave a slight nod, then looked around to ensure no one else was present before whispering, "Follow me." Zara Sue followed him into the warehouse. The warehouse was filled with a musty smell, dimly lit with only a few rays of sunlight streaming through holes in the roof, dust dancing in the light. They walked to a corner of the warehouse where there were several worn-out wooden crates. The man crouched down, retrieved a small notebook and a pen from behind one of the crates, and handed them to Zara Sue, saying, "Write down everything you know, hurry." Zara Sue took the notebook and pen, her hand trembling slightly. She meticulously wrote down the layout of the hideout in the notebook, stroke by stroke. The hideout has 3 floors. The first floor is where the regular guards are stationed, with about 20 people on rotating shifts. Their weapons are all stored in the cabinet to the left of the entrance. She wrote very carefully, recording every detail as thoroughly as possible. Meanwhile, the undercover agent stood guard vigilantly, his eyes occasionally glancing toward the warehouse entrance while his ears remained alert to any sounds outside. After Zara Sue finished writing, she handed the notebook to the police officer. The undercover officer quickly skimmed through it and then said to Zara Sue, "You've done well. We'll act as soon as possible. Be careful during this time and don't reveal any flaws." Zara Sue nodded. She knew she had already embarked on a path of no return. She had caused Jiu Li Nguyen's death, but she felt no regret. Zara Sue returned to the compound with trepidation, each step feeling as if she were walking on the edge of a knife. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest, as if it might burst out of her throat at any moment. The scene of her meeting with the undercover police officer kept replaying in her mind. Every detail was like a sword hanging over her head, ready to plunge down at the slightest misstep. She tried her best to appear composed, but her slightly trembling hands and the fine beads of sweat on her forehead betrayed her inner turmoil. As for Jiu Li Nguyen, he was completely immersed in the joy of having regained what was lost, utterly oblivious to any signs of abnormality. Before long, Jiu Li Nguyen's businesses were suppressed, and his contact points were completely wiped out. Jiu Li Nguyen paced back and forth in his territory like an enraged, trapped beast. "There must be a traitor among us." Under Jiu Li Nguyen's scrutinizing gaze, his underlings all kept their heads down, not daring to make a sound. Jiu Li Nguyen grabbed a thug by the collar and roared, "Speak, was it you who betrayed me?" The thug turned pale with fear and stammered in defense, "Boss, it wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me." Jiu Li Nguyen was like a beast blinded by rage. His eyes filled with malice, a cruel smile curling at the corners of his lips. He shoved the underling to the ground, then drew a gleaming dagger from his waist. Jiu Li Nguyen slowly crouched down, lightly tracing the dagger across the underling's face. The cold blade made the underling's body tremble uncontrollably. "Boss, please, I swear it wasn't me." The underling pleaded in tears, his voice thick with despair. Jiu Li Nguyen turned a deaf ear to it. He suddenly raised the dagger and stabbed it fiercely into the thug's abdomen. The thug let out a scream, his eyes widening as he instinctively clutched the wound with both hands, blood gushing out between his fingers. Jiu Li Nguyen did not stop there. He pulled out the dagger and stabbed the thug's chest several more times in succession, each strike delivered with all his strength. The underling's body trembled violently with his movements, blood continuously gushing from his mouth, the light in his eyes gradually dimming. Jiyu Linyuan stood up, his face splattered with the underling's blood, yet he remained indifferent like a demon. His cold gaze swept over the other underlings, as if searching for the next target. Just like that, several underlings were executed by him in this cruel manner under false charges. A chilling aura of death instantly permeated the park, silencing everyone as they feared misfortune might befall them next. As the park deteriorated, Jiyu Linyuan realized it was no longer safe to stay. He decided to escape with Zara Su. Jiyu Linyuan gently took Zara Su's hand, his eyes filled with tenderness and urgency. "Zara, we must leave now," he said, leading Zara Su hurriedly toward the parking lot. The parking lot was dimly lit. Jiyu Linyuan tightly held Zara Su's hand, as if afraid she might be scared or get lost in the darkness. They soon arrived at a black car, where Jiyu Linyuan opened the passenger door for Zara Su and said softly, "Zara, get in quickly." After Zara Su got into the car, her heart was a mix of emotions, but she maintained a calm appearance on the surface. Jiyu Linyuan quickly moved to the driver's seat. He started the car, and the engine emitted a low, rumbling sound. Jiyu Linyuan glanced at Zara Su, reached out to gently fasten her seatbelt, and reminded her, "Zara, buckle up, it might be a bumpy ride." Zara Su forced a faint smile and said, "Thank you, Linyuan." Jiyu Linyuan's lips curled slightly upwards. "As long as you're by my side, I want to take care of everything." The car slowly pulled out of the parking lot, with Jiyu Linyuan vigilantly scanning the surroundings. As the vehicle approached the exit of the compound, his expression grew even more tense. His eyes fixed intently on the guards ahead, he placed one hand on the steering wheel and reached over with the other to gently hold Zara Su's hand, as if drawing strength for both her and himself. Zara Su felt a surge of nervousness, knowing she had to cooperate with Jiyu Linyuan to successfully relay his location to the police. She forced herself to remain calm and asked, "Linyuan, where are we going?" Jiyu Linyuan frowned slightly. "Let's get away from this dangerous place first." "Zara, don't worry, I'm here with you." Finally, the car successfully drove out of the compound. Jiyu Linyuan stepped on the accelerator, and the car sped away into the night. He focused on the road ahead, occasionally glancing at Zara Su, and asked, "Zara, are you okay? Are you feeling unwell anywhere?" Zara Su shook her head. "I'm fine. Just focus on driving." The car sped along the highway, with the scenery outside the window rapidly receding. Jiyu Linyuan drove the car, slowing down as much as possible when encountering rough patches of road, afraid of jostling Zara Su. While dealing with Jiyu Linyuan, Zara Su silently calculated in her mind how to discreetly pass on their location information. She gritted her teeth and retreated with Jiyu Linyuan, as this was her only chance to get closer to the truth and assist the police. She gazed at Jiyu Linyuan's profile as he focused on driving, secretly tightening her grip on the small signal transmitter hidden in her pocket. Upon receiving the signal, the police quickly pinpointed Jiyu Linyuan's location. A team of highly trained officers silently advanced in their direction. Jiyu Linyuan remained absorbed in driving, completely unaware of the impending danger. Jiyu Linyuan was intently driving when suddenly, police sirens blared from all directions. His face instantly turned deathly pale, and the first thought that flashed through his mind was that he had been betrayed. The only person who could have betrayed him was Zara Su. In agony, he turned his head to look at Zara Su, his eyes filled with resentment, his lips trembling slightly as he spoke. "Zara, why?" Zara Su didn't dare to meet his eyes. Her own reddened as she whispered, "Linyuan, we've done too many wrong things and must accept our punishment." Jiyu Linyuan's heart was filled with the fury of betrayal, yet seeing Zara Su's fearful and remorseful expression, his heart softened again. At this moment, police vehicles had surrounded them, with dark gun barrels pointed at the car. Jiyu Linyuan slowly opened the car door and stood in front of it, his tall figure deliberately or inadvertently shielding Zara Su. An officer shouted through a megaphone, "Jiyu Linyuan, you're surrounded, surrender immediately." Jiyu Linyuan did not respond to the police. With his back turned to Zara Su, his voice was low and hoarse as he said, Zara, no matter what, I don't want you to get hurt. Tears streamed uncontrollably down Zara Su's face as she watched Jiyu Linyuan's retreating figure, her heart filled with guilt and reluctance. The police slowly approached, but Jiyu Linyuan offered no resistance. He simply stood there quietly, his eyes filled with unwillingness and an endless longing for Zara Su. At this moment, Zara Su was plunged into immense pain and inner turmoil. On one side was her childhood friend, her beloved, on the other side was her homeland, justice itself. Caught in between, she was utterly tormented. Standing there, Jiyu Linyuan had Zara Su right behind him, the two of them standing very close together, close enough to feel each other's breath. Linyuan, let me see you. Okay, Su Wn said. Jiyu Linyuan turned around, looking at the girl before him with a bitter smile, still gentle. You liked me too, didn't you? Su Wn did not answer. She simply gazed quietly at Jiyu Linyuan, her eyes seemingly trying to etch his appearance deeply into her soul. Su Wn stepped forward and embraced Jiyu Linyuan, replying in a very soft voice, Yes, I like you. I like you very much. Jiyu Linyuan finally revealed a relieved smile. The next second, the sound of a dagger piercing flesh was heard. Jiyu Linyuan slowly lowered his head to look at his own chest. Excruciating pain instantly swept through his entire body, yet there was not a trace of anger in his gaze, only endless tenderness and reluctance. He felt as if a gaping hole had been torn open in his chest, the agony making his body tremble slightly, but his eyes remained fixed on Zara Su. His gaze seemed to hold 1,000 words, as if he were telling Zara Su that he didn't blame her, that all of this was fate's cruel trick. His lips trembled slightly, as if he wanted to say something. But no sound came out. His hand slowly rose, wanting to touch Zara Su's tear-streaked face, but before he could reach her, it fell limply back down. His love surged like a tidal wave in that moment, and though his life was fading, his attachment to Zara Su grew only stronger. Zara Su's hand tightly gripped the dagger. Trembling violently like a leaf in the wind, her tears burst forth, streaming freely down her cheeks. Her eyes were filled with pain and despair, her body swaying slightly. She didn't want this, yet she felt it was their only possible end. As she gazed into Jiyu Linyuan's tender, loving eyes, her heart felt pierced by countless needles, each one carrying endless guilt and remorse. She could only watch helplessly as her young love slowly collapsed, her heart blooming with a flower of the underworld, her world completely shattered in that moment, all reason devoured by endless grief. Zara Su clutched the blood-stained dagger tightly, her eyes hollow yet filled with a chilling resolve. The undercover officer realized her intent and rushed forward, shouting no, but everything seemed to slow to a crawl. A bitter smile curled at the corner of Zara Su's lips, filled with longing and love for Jiyu Linyuan. She slowly raised the dagger, the very one that had just ended her beloved's life, now seeming like the final bridge leading her to Jiyu Linyuan. Her fingers lightly brushed the blade, as if making one last touch with Jiyu Linyuan. Tears continued to stream down her face, each drop seemingly narrating the love story between them. Her gaze remained fixed on the direction where Jiyu Linyuan had fallen. There lay the person she had loved most in this life, and also the lover she had destroyed with her own hands. Then, without hesitation, she plunged the dagger into her own chest. Her body leaned back slightly, like a butterfly with broken wings, slowly drifting downward. The white skirt spread out on the ground like a blooming flower, and the surrounding air seemed to freeze. The dagger was deeply embedded in her body, blood slowly seeping out, staining her clothes red. Zara Su collapsed not far from Jiyu Linyuan, as if she had mustered her last ounce of strength just to get closer to him. Her hand stretched toward Jiyu Linyuan, as if trying to grasp the happiness they once shared, even if it was just a lingering trace of warmth, in her final moments. Her mind was filled with every little memory of being with Jiyu Linyuan. Those beautiful recollections, like dazzling starlight, illuminated the dark path she walked toward death. After that den of iniquity was destroyed, sunlight struggled to penetrate every corner, striving to dispel all traces of dark gloom. The city gradually regained its vitality, with people bustling through streets and alleys, their laughter and chatter seemingly drowning out the past fears and crimes. At the cemetery on the city's outskirts, Two tombstones stood quietly, one belonged to Jiu Lin Yuan, while the other marked Su Wan's final resting place, Su Wn, a woman once engulfed in darkness yet still harboring a kind heart. Her story is like the occasional breeze in the cemetery, gently touching the heartstrings of those who hear it. The young police officer, during his undercover mission, witnessed all of Su Wan's tenderness and helplessness. Every time he comes here, he lightly touches the tombstone, as if comforting Su Wn, who once endured so much suffering. Su Wn, you are a kind soul, and this world should not forget you, he murmured to himself. The pines and cypresses in the cemetery stood like faithful guardians, silently listening to his words. A small bird perched on a nearby branch, chirping as if echoing the policeman's sentiments. In this tranquil cemetery, Su Wan's kindness burned like an eternal flame, quietly glowing in his heart and in some corner of the world, warming all who knew her story.